1977, just 47 years ago, a film was released that transformed the world. The scope of its cinematic achievement, the epic sound of its orchestral score, and the ingenuity and imagination behind its practical and visual effects still stand as a testament to its everlasting presence in the pop culture zeitgeist. At War of the Stars, we hope to review that story and that film, but we cannot do it alone. Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi, review A New Hope.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Coming to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is John Mark Tolley, and joining me today, as always, are my co-host,
Garrett K. Jones.
And
Brian Big Sheev Caresset.
Yes, I love it. I also love that introduction that you did, Garrett. That was
really nicely done, Garrett.
That was very cool.
Yeah, that took me about 20 minutes this morning. I shot it on my phone against my green screen here. Sent it in the background plate to my Mac, edited everything on iMovie, and then ported it back over. And then there's actually another version that's going to go up on social media later this week, or around the time this episode is airing, and it came out really well done. Like I had to angle everything to make it look like I'm being projected by R2, and it was tons of fun.
Very cool.
Like
very well done.
Yes. But yes, as Garrett so eloquently put it, today we are reviewing A New Hope, aka Star Wars. And for those of you who are old enough to remember when it was just Star Wars, not episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, anything like that, just simply Star Wars. I mean, where do we even start with this movie? This is the movie that literally started it all.
How old were you in 1977?
I wasn't even born yet.
Okay.
Let's see, what month did it come out?
May, I think, right?
May. So I was negative 6 months. I was still in my mom's, inside my mother.
So I'm the only one who was alive in 77. That's cool.
Yes.
I was 3 in 1977 in May, but I was living in Tehran, and it didn't actually make it to Iran until 1978. And as I think I've mentioned on the show before, my dad is a huge British nerd. He grew up on generations of Doctor Who and Star Trek, and so this was a must-see. And at that time, there wasn't really like kids' movies per se. It was just like, is it a Disney cartoon or it's not? We're going to go see it. And we went and saw it, and I don't remember much about it, but one of my earliest core memories is taking my Luke and Leia figures to see the movie. So it launched a fandom.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, not only did it launch a fandom, but I've mentioned this before, is it launched a group of filmmakers, of future filmmakers who were so blown away by, I've often said that how you hear a lot of times, people like engineers and scientists and stuff like that will say, and doctors will say they were inspired by Star Trek, inspired by Scotty to go into engineering, or Dr. McCoy to go into medicine. I wonder how many special effects artists there are that would say, watching A New Hope for the first time inspired me to want to do that.
I was inspired to go into womanizing by Captain Kirk. Unfortunately, it was not an effective career for me. In many ways, I am not William Shatner.
It's probably for the best.
Yes,
probably for the best. There's only one William Shatner.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was always playing the monster characters. Like I would be Vader, or it was always an alien. When we played Alien. I don't know if you guys knew this, but when the first Alien movie came out, there was a child's toy action figure of the Xenomorph.
Yep.
And why did they make a toy of this R-rated violent film? But we loved it.
They have an ABC book by Golden Books for Alien. I saw that this last week at Target, and I'm like my son saw it and he recognized, and he's like, "Read that to me." And so I'm starting to flip.
I can give you an answer to that question. In the words of Yogurt, merchandising.
No kidding, right?
Well,
leave it to Disney to start merchandising on things.
I bring it up though because when we played Alien, I was always the alien, and like I play Warcraft, I'm always a monster. Like I always take the non-human characters, and I always would say, you know, I look pretty much human in real life. It's a lot more fun to diverge. And Star Wars, just the vast array of aliens in that. Like my first Ithorian, like who didn't like the Hammerhead was such a cool model. And you know, seeing Ithorians up to like in Skeleton Crew, the Ithorian talking through the two mouths, it's great. It's hard to encapsulate in one episode what this movie launched.
Oh yeah,
but what it was for me was a D&D kid who liked swords and sorcery, and I got to see swords and sorcery in a sci-fi context, and it set the tone for the rest of my life.
And for me too, I grew up watching and reading classic stories, and I mean, one of my favorite films growing up was Sword in the Stone, and as I was watching through the original Star Wars film, this original film, I started making some connections. I didn't realize it at the time, but it wasn't until I was in middle school or high school that a cousin of my dad's, who was a teacher, he said that Star Wars is based off of, in a very large part, off of Arthurian legend. Because if you look at the template that Arthurian legend creates for us in dealing with Arthur and Morgana Le Fay and some of the other elements that are there, it's there. I mean, Obi-Wan is Merlin. You've got Darth Vader as Mordred. You have Luke, obviously, as Arthur, and even though Morgana Le Fay was typically antagonist, antagonist to Arthur, we don't get that, but we do have that brother sister dynamic later on with Luke and Leia.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of? Lucas was always pretty quick to say that he had the whole story written out from the get-go, but I don't think the movies bear that out. Like if you read Splinter of the Mind's Eye, no, he didn't.
Yeah,
I don't think he had it. I don't think he had it as fleshed out as it became over time, but I think he had the basic premise of like the main beats that he wanted to accomplish threaded throughout. I think just like with any story, the basic idea evolves over time. I mean, from the writing perspective, my series initially started off as a trilogy of books, and so far I've got 5. And there are things that I had
the Hitchhiker's Guide model, kind
of, and one of the story beats that I had planned for one of the first books ended up becoming a book by itself and became the second entry into the series. So, you know, these the way things fleshed out may have evolved over time, but I think the story beats were all there.
Guys, by the way, if anybody has not read Splinter of the Mind's Eye, you should definitely read it. First off, it's classic Alan Dean Foster. It's a great novel, but it's
good.
It's like alternate universe Star Wars, where Luke and Leia are in a romantic relationship, and at one point, I mean, they're not related in the book, so that's why I say, like, there's some things that Lucas did not have planned out.
Yeah.
That the plan was Splinter of the Mind's Eye would be the sequel to Star Wars if they didn't make a second movie, and like, oh, suddenly we are all rich. We are going to make a second movie. But yeah, there's some awkward moments in that, knowing how Luke and Leia ended up in canon. But yeah, I mean, that's a bit.
Yeah.
One thing I find problematic with episode 4 though is introducing new audience members to the saga, because A New Hope is kind of hard to get people to watch 40 years later. You know, it's the cinematography doesn't meet the needs of a modern audience if they're not looking for it. I feel like you have to, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but you kind of have to be a more sophisticated movie goer to appreciate that movie now.
Well, I think part of it is because we're so used to, and I hate to say that the Marvelized version of cinematography, but like Marvel has made a habit of when you have and Star Wars to some extent in the more recent films, you see these action sequences that are a lot of quick cuts in the middle of the action, a lot of close-ups for no reason really at all. Whereas you look at the original trilogy, and the camera is pulled back so you can see the scope of the environment in which the characters are in.
Yeah.
And it's all practical effects. There's no CG involved. It's all they're physically and tangibly in the space.
Yeah.
Right, they're rolling the words up the glass screen.
Right.
Definitely.
But I mean, like you look at, for example, the way that the fight between Obi-Wan and Vader goes.
I was just about to mention that one.
Like you have them making physical contact with the blades, and like and what's cool is if you go back and you get rid of the sound effects, you get rid of the music, and you get rid of the digital effects, it like all you hear is the clacking of these plastic sticks against each other as Alec Guinness and
David Cross.
Thank you. As they're just going through the motions of the scene, and it's kind of weird when you scale it back like that. It looks way more epic, but like the whole point is that the cinematography was done far differently to make sure that they could go in and rotoscope and hand paint each of those cells to make sure the blades were in place. Now you just you point and shoot, and then you're like, okay, we can fix it in post. Done.
Yeah.
You know what I think is interesting. Speaking of the lightsaber fight, I think each trilogy has a different style of lightsaber combat. In the prequels, we see lightsaber combat executed by people who have been training their whole lives in this style or whatever style they're using in this form of combat, with hundreds, thousands of others just like them in this established generations old training program.
Well,
and in the original trilogy, all of that is gone. You see, Vader has not had a legitimate lightsaber wielding opponent in a decade or more. And neither has Kenobi. Kenobi hasn't picked up that lightsaber in quite some time.
I wanted to bring up since we're talking about the lightsaber fight, I'm sure you both have seen the redone version of the lightsaber fight. I personally hate that because to me it takes away from the epic scope of what that encounter was.
I don't like fan fiction, so yeah, I'm with you.
To me, it was just
it's well done, but do it with your own
character. It was well done, but to me, you got two people who are both getting up in age, and age we've seen with Yoda, age doesn't really matter. But look at it from Vader's point of view, especially now that we've seen the Obi-Wan series and the way that fight ended, and now he's suddenly faced with his old master again for the first time in, like you said, probably decades, thinking in his mind, the last time I saw this guy, he wiped the floor with me. What and just thinking, okay, what do I? And he's just standing there. Obi-Wan's just standing there. Goes Obi-Wan is going through his mind. He's there for one purpose only, to buy time. He knows he's dead. He knows that he's going to sacrifice his life. He's only there to buy time for Luke and Han and Leia to get away. So Vader's looking at this, thinking to himself, "Wait a minute. The last time I saw this guy, he basically could have killed me, but he didn't. What does he want? Why is he here?" Oh, sorry. And so it makes that encounter so much more, in my mind, so much more epic. Now, it's not the best fight, even in the original trilogy, but it has so much weight because of that implicit backstory that you have between these two, especially knowing the history.
As we see that backstory fleshed out over the years in other canon material, we know that Vader sees that could have killed me but didn't as a blow. It's not just that Vader was defeated; it was that Obi-Wan crippled him and left him to die.
Yeah, not just once, but twice. I mean, as we said in the Obi-Wan series, there's twice where Obi-Wan had him dead to rights,
Yeah.
and chose to let him live. And
it's
for
because
Vader-
Obi-Wan can't bring himself to kill Anakin Skywalker.
Well, I
But
think it's
Anakin
also not
Skywalker
that.
can no longer see that as a mercy. He sees it as a cruelty.
I don't also see. I don't not only that, but I think because Obi-Wan has kind of positioned himself as the ultimate Jedi, and a Jedi would not kill. In his mind, a Jedi does not kill an unarmed man. And at that point, Vader was defeated. When you're talking about the Obi-Wan series, Vader was defeated. He was unarmed. He'd taken away his lightsaber. So I think in Obi-Wan's mind, Vader's unarmed. I'm not going to kill an unarmed man. That would be murder in his mind. Now, the galaxy might have seen it differently, but
I see it differently. I see it as a huge failing.
yeah.
Well, and the other part of this is, I mean, you look at, I mean, if we include what happens in the Obi-Wan series in that fight, I mean, we've had two moments prior to this duel where each of them has wiped the floor with the other. And in Obi-Wan's case, it quite literally happened to him because Vader was dragging him across the gravel. And
Pushing him down to that fire. Oh, I love that scene.
Oh, dude, it was brutal. And
your pain has just begun.
And so, like, we get this idea that, I mean, here they are. They're older men now. I mean, God, Obi-Wan has to be at least in his 60s, and Anakin is at least 10 years younger than him, maybe a little bit more than that. But you've got these two old men who are finally facing off against each other for the first time in at least a decade, or more. And
how old is Luke? That long?
Yeah, and each of the last two battles, Obi-Wan left Anakin for dead, and in the one in between those events, Anakin came back and pummeled the crap out of Obi-Wan. So they're both rethinking how this fight is going to go. Anakin's angrier than ever before. His pride is right there in the forefront of everything. You see it in the arrogant tone that he uses with Obi-Wan. And Kenobi, on the other hand, is just like, crap, I'm having to do this again.
Yeah.
Like, you could see the exhaustion in his face. And this was the original fight scene between the characters. So that context is there.
It hurts my heart to know that Alec Guinness did not like this role and did not like these films, because he does such an amazing job, and he creates such a gold standard for that character. And Obi-Wan is perhaps my favorite Jedi character in the entire saga, and that is saying something for me. But that starts with Alec Guinness's portrayal. But I gotta say, really, McGregor just really sealed the deal for me. But Alec Guinness is, as Garrett just said, that world really like, oh God, I gotta spank this kid again. And I think, not that I would ever rewrite the series or like wish they'd done it differently, but like within a universe context, Obi-Wan should have, under no circumstances should Obi-Wan have let Anakin live. I mean, he knew or should have known. And of all the failings of the Jedi that led up to the dawn of Darth Vader, I think Kenobi not finishing him off out of mercy, because there is no way Anakin's coming back from that, and I think Kenobi should have done that.
But at the end, though, we know that was wrong, though, because Anakin did come back.
It took a lot. I don't think he could have at that point, though.
Yeah,
and Obi-Wan couldn't have been betting on one day Anakin's son will. And there's no way that Obi-Wan could have predicted that. And I
don't think Obi-Wan was predicting that. I think what it really came down to, this was someone that he loved deeply, someone he treated as a brother, as an equal, despite the changes, the differences in rank. And ultimately it came down to the fact that, and I think it's said best when Ewan McGregor does his very pained speech after the fight. He says, "You were the chosen one."
Yeah.
This is ultimately the reason why he stayed his hand. It wasn't just out of mercy. It wasn't just out of the fact that the Jedi Code prevented him from morally killing an unarmed combatant. He couldn't bring himself to do it because deep down he still believed that Anakin was that figurehead. And what would that mean for him as a Jedi to strike down the one person that the Force chose?
Yeah.
Well, and we could get into the whole debate of what do we mean by balancing the Force.
Yeah. So for those of
Because
you who are
mathematically
wondering,
speaking,
Yeah.
yeah. So for those of you who are wondering, according to this, Vader was 41 years old at the beginning of New Hope, and Obi-Wan was 57.
Okay. So I'm Anakin's age, slightly older.
Yeah. So he's going through the ultimate midlife crisis.
should've just
Palpatine would have
bought
been
an-
84.
He should have just bought a convertible for his TIE fighter. I think everything would have been panned out. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's
somebody
hurting for
just
the
a little
money.
too young for him.
Well, there was that nurse that had a crush on him and tried, and he killed her.
There's a great series of artwork on ArtStation of Vader in the shop, like working on a ship. And it's just really, it's a nice series of moments of Vader in the armor, cloak off, just like tinkering with a part of a TIE fighter. And it
Nice.
casts a really nice light of who he was inside the armor. It was just a kid who liked tinkering.
I think just getting to that, we've talked about Vader before, but I would think like in situations like that, there would be like the one few time where he would be truly happy of tinkering with something, of building something, because that's what he was. He was a tinker. He was a builder. He loved to build. He loved to tinker with things. So getting that aspiration in that context would be, I think, would be his kind of his one happy place where he could kind of.
I really like in that light. Every time C-3PO says "thank the maker," he is talking about Darth Vader.
Yes. Well, let's get back to the narrative of the movie A New Hope. The first characters we see in the movie are the droids.
Yeah.
They're the very first named characters that we see, and we see them going across as the Tantive 4 is being attacked. First of all, let's talk about that shot, the opening shot. I mean, to me, that is one of the most epic opening shots of a movie. That Star Destroyer coming in, and it set the standard for almost every opening Star Wars movie there is. There's always either some sort of star. It always starts in space with some sort of starship coming into frame, but that one to me is my favorite.
Well, and it sets up the imbalance between the Rebel Alliance and the Empire. Like you see what the Rebel Alliance is up against. Like, oh, here's a nice big starship. Oh, wait, here is an actual big starship. Right? There's always something bigger. Right? There's always a bigger fish. But yeah, it's a great moment, and as you say, John Mark, really,
iconic.
It's iconic. Yeah.
I think the story wise, it does really well. Like, I think for me, like, because I've watched the film so many times, there are points where I will fall asleep. If I'm watching it, I will take a nap. And it's usually the parts where, before the droids get picked up by the Jawas and sold to the Lars family, I will fall asleep during that because I'm just like, okay, I've seen this a gazillion times, nothing new.
Yeah.
But then I fall asleep at some point while they're on the Death Star because that gets a little exhausting for me.
I just keep seeing all the OSHA violations. Like, where are the handrails?
Yeah, right. But the thing I like about it is how closely the story hits the beats of the what's the word I'm looking for? It's the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. The hero's journey is synonymous throughout the whole story, because I mean, we're introduced to the world as it is with the Empire coming after the rebellion. So that's established very early on. We get to see what Luke's ordinary world is. He's, trapped on this desert planet, moisture farming. That's got to be the most frustrating job, because how often do they get rain?
Yeah.
And
Well, it's the nightly condensation. I guess go on. But yes, it's not an exciting role.
No, it's not. And you see that wearing thin on him, because you can tell he doesn't want to be a farmer. You can see that Owen wants to keep him protected, but at the same time knows that his nephew is destined for something greater. And then just so many beats are so telling and so well done, even if the dialogue is a little
Still
lackluster from time to time. Yeah, it is stilted for sure. But I mean, there's some great moments in that, because you have some decent characters. Each of the characters has a different quality, a different tone. I mean, yeah, there's some snark, that shows up.
I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for the fact this is another galaxy.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not hearing them speak English, so if some of the idioms don't work, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll go with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so the performances were so good, and to think that we almost had Kurt Russell in the role of Han Solo and Sissy Spacek in the role of Leia.
Well,
and I don't remember who was up for the role of.
Yeah, we almost.
William Catt was up for the role of Luke Skywalker.
Who did you say was up for the role of Han Solo?
Kurt Russell.
So was Tom Selleck.
Yes.
William Catt, believe it or not.
Actually, the only reason why Tom Selleck did not get the role is because he was shooting Magnum PI. He was contractually obligated to for Magnum PI.
I'm sure Selleck, between spending 6 months in Tunisia and spending another 6 months in Honolulu, I'm sure Selleck had a hard sell on that one.
Yeah.
Well, Lucas is, of course, a world builder. And I think what we see, we go back and forth to scenes where we see the enormity of this galaxy, of the Galactic Empire. The board meeting on the Star Destroyer where Vader finds your lack of faith disturbing. That's not just some classic Vader lines. It's showing the vast bureaucracy of the Empire and the grip that they have. And then cut to, we see the Lars homestead. And so we get to see both large and small where this galaxy is. And you're 5 minutes into this movie and you have a sense of the entire galactic civilization, really.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I really appreciated about the film is that, going back and rewatching it and looking at the dynamics of the world building. I mean, first of all, I remember if you watch the old special edition VHS tapes, they had those little segmented interviews with Leonard Maltin and George Lucas. And I remember Lucas talking with regards to the world building that in each of the films, he wanted to have at least 3 very distinct locations. So in the first film, we have Tatooine, desert location, very bleak, very hostile to the inhabitants. Then you've got the very sterile, cold, monochromatic environments, very industrial location of the Death Star. And then you have as a nice little refreshing palette on Yavin, with all this life, all this lushness, this greenness. And what's interesting is each of those locations represents a different act in the story if you're going off of a 3-act structure. Because everything starts off on Tatooine, and it's not until Luke makes the decision as the hero in the hero's journey, he makes that decision to leave the world behind and go with Obi-Wan on this damn fool quest. And that's when I knocked my microphone. That's when they go and they leave that world behind, and they find themselves heading towards the Death Star. They're in space. They're in this cold vacuum. They're in this another hostile environment. It's even worse.
That is something George Lucas really got right. If he was behind the set design, was the shipboard scenes, having spent quite a bit of time aboard a U.S. battleship, those are very accurate. Like I can smell that hallway.
Mhm.
It's
The carbon
they-
scoring and
yeah, exactly. They do it really well. Jet fuel and desperation.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, I also, we can. I just want to touch on we can talk all day about Luke and Vader, and we have, but this is also where we first meet Leia Organa, and talk about launching a fandom, as it were. I made a meme. I have a coffee cup that says "Property of the Death Star, do not remove." So I had to make I like the coffee like I like my women, strong, sweet, a little bitter, and removed from the Death Star without authorization. Like it's such a fun introduction to a princess who doesn't need saving.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? Give me the gun. I'll do this.
Yeah,
and she's a better shot.
Yeah.
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 Statistically, we've proven this.
Yes.
Yes, we discussed that. So
we did.
And I think she's pivotal to the role, and of course, Carrie Fisher is a national treasure, and we all miss her. But Leia Organa was I don't know anybody else who could have played her. Sissy Spacek.
No, Carrie Fisher was the perfect.
Also a national treasure, Sissy Spacek, but she'll always be Carrie. That's funny. She played Carrie. Anyway, it's an interesting role for that, because what I was saying about building worlds, when we meet Leia Organa, she's a senator or ambassador. What's her
Senator.
role? Senator. She's a senator, figurehead or not. It's mostly a
ceremonial.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly ceremonial. Like the emperor is the emperor, but the fact that he's that high level of a government official and still that much of a swashbuckler makes her at the time unique in sci-fi. And for me, she set the stage for Ellen Ripley, and for Cara Thrace later in life. But she's really an archetype, and the fact that this is the movie that launched her is definitely noteworthy.
Yeah.
Go for it, John.
I remember watching it with my family several years ago, and we were preparing for Force Awakens to come out. We were going through or watching all the movies, and I remember my mom watching. She's not a Star Wars fan, she's seen the movies, but I remember she made a comment that has really stuck with me. She said, "I forgot how fun this movie was." Like, it's just a fun movie.
Yeah.
Like, you can sit down in it, and there's not like this super deep. I'm sure every movie has every director has super deep back meaning between everything, but A New Hope doesn't seem like it's that type of movie where there's some sort of hidden agenda or hidden meaning behind every little thing. It's just a fun adventure movie. Let's go. Here's the story. Have fun.
Well, it's there if you want to look for it. The rise of fascism
and
the power of fear to oppress millions.
But even then, like, you look at the first entry in any story series, especially in an adventure story like this, it doesn't come with the strings attached for any nostalgia or any member berries like we see in more recent filmmaking. There's no you watch
mean Grand Admiral member berries,
right? But you watch through, for example, the MCU, and you all these nods to previous entries in that franchise up through Endgame, and or you watch the more recent Star Wars movies and shows, and you see those clips that remind you of the original film, and it feels like, hey, remember this? Remember when we did this 47 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the werewolf guy in Mos Eisley? Here he is in Skeleton Crew.
Right, exactly. And so that opening story doesn't require the audience to do any kind of homework. It doesn't, because Brian, I mean, you make a good point about how this is a hard film to enter anybody into the fandom to get them interested in Star Wars. And you're right. Like 20 years ago, I was dating this gal when I was in college, and we had a deal going back and forth where like she would have me watch like we picked out 5 movies that we each loved, and I would watch one of hers, she would watch one of mine, and we'd watch them together. But like the original Star Wars was on my list, and like she fell asleep, and like I watched through all 5 of her film selections. She fell asleep through most of mine, and I'm like, "Are you kidding?"
I think we're going to need to know what those film selections were.
Hers were mostly horror films. Like there was like Halloween, the original.
Oh, respect. Okay.
There was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre by Toby Hooper.
So you're not plowing through John Hughes classics. See, there's some like
no.
Some appeal. Okay.
But then like the films I was having her watch were like the original Alien. I was having her watch. I had her watch the original X-Men film from 24 years ago, which that was a mistake because then she got a huge crush on Hugh Jackman, and I had to stop watching any movie that he was in with her because that just created issues. But
I've had to stop watching movies with him in it, but not for her.
Anyway, so yeah, so but yeah, it was a very difficult film for her to get into because she just didn't make the connection. She couldn't understand why it was so beloved. I'm like, it's beloved because it's good.
Yeah.
Like, it's practical set pieces.
But you can't argue ice cream flavors with somebody. Like if they don't like it, they don't like it.
Well, and I had
that classic moment from Big Bang Theory where Leonard shows Penny this film.
Yeah.
Where the girl with whom I watched this movie who had never seen it's like, oh, Vader's Luke's father, right? Like, how did you know? Like, don't spoil it. And like, she's like, his name is Vader. It means father. Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well,
here's tricky though. I've always said, you kind of already have to like it at this point.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question for you though. I was thinking about this earlier. If A New Hope had been the only movie in the Star Wars universe to come out, like they just ended with that, because if you watch the movie, it tells the complete story. Like you can do it, and they didn't come out with Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi or anything else, would we still hold the nostalgia for this movie that we have? Or
it is an interesting question.
Is because that launched so much else afterwards. Do we now look back at it through not necessarily rose-colored glasses, but with more nostalgia than maybe we would have if it had only been? Yes,
I was Darth Vader for Halloween for 3 consecutive years, not knowing that Empire Strikes Back was coming out. So I would say perhaps not to the same extent. Like we wouldn't have been without as much of a universe in which to immerse ourselves. Perhaps not.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if I'd be going to conventions, but I'd still have a costume hanging on my.
Honestly, I think if it was just the one film, even if it had made a bunch of money and George Lucas just left it as it was and kept it as it was instead of franchising it out, I think that it would still be appreciated for what it did for special effects and cinematography, because if nothing else, it pushed the technology of its day into something more. Because George Lucas was able, from that point on, was able to start fast tracking Lucasfilm and ILM as one of the predominant special effects companies in the industry, and to the point where ILM is now doing stuff for a bunch of other film projects, not just Star Wars, not just Indiana Jones, not just any of those things that were under the banner of Lucasfilm. They've been branching out, and they've been doing a great job. If not for what they were doing in pushing those technological boundaries, we wouldn't have had guys like Phil Tippett, who came out of Lucasfilm to set up his own studio and do all the work that he did with Jurassic Park, which is more than 30 years down the line, still the most photorealistic versions of dinosaurs we've ever had. And that's even saying so after we've had Jurassic World.
On that point, I have to observe this. Jurassic Park was so pivotal to the dinosaur entertainment industry.
Mhm.
I have not one time been to like one of these dinosaurs alive shows. If you know the like museums of live animatronic
Yeah.
dinosaurs,
Yeah.
they all have a sick triceratops. Every single one I've ever been to has a sick triceratops. It's like they all have to be sick, and it's because of that scene. I blame the movie. Anyway, Garrett, you mentioned your mom mentioned she forgot how fun it was. It is a fun movie. I mean, it's. I'm sure you guys are aware. Lucas like took a lower paycheck in exchange for a piece of the merchandising on this film, and they'll never do that again because it made him a billionaire. But there's a reason these toys sell, because people see this movie and they want to play in this universe.
Yeah.
There's a reason that Star Wars role-playing games, video games, action figures have been selling nonstop. It's a little sad when you go to Target now. The Star Wars section is like 3 pegs, but it's okay. Like, we're in between films right now. It's a bit of a lull. But that said, you can still go to a Target and find a Star Wars toy hanging on the shelf. And there's someone will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bad Sanders said I just bought a new Palpatine. I've got him sitting here on the shelf next to me, and I'm waiting on my next one to arrive in the mail tomorrow.
Yeah.
I actually was just at a shop today, and picked up a gift. I'll show it to you. It's actually kind of cool because I was looking in there. I was looking for some Palpatine stuff in case I wanted to send anything to North Carolina, but I found this.
Oh, okay.
Kenner, and it's their retro version. It's part of the vintage collection, and it's multi-pulsable. It has more of the Carrie Fisher features to the figurine, but she comes with a removable hood, blaster, and a pair of blasters. One's the Stormtrooper rifle, the other one's her little pistol from the beginning of the film. And I thought, you know what, this is really cool that they're bringing back the Kenner brand on those figurines, and I'm like, I'm down. But they've got a whole bunch now. They've got a whole bunch. From some of them are newer characters, like they have one for Grogu, and they've got one for Mando, and they've got one for Ahsoka, based in the same style. But it's really neat to see that they're coming back. And I think we lost Brian. I think Carrie Fisher's bravery and determination scared off the big bad Big Sheev.
I know.
No.
Dang it.
Now he's just a disembodied voice.
I tried to get this one.
Can't see it. Oh, there we go.
I got that same retro version.
There.
Nice. I was looking for one for you, and I didn't see it.
I gotta say, I've had to tell my mom, like, if you see a Palpatine before you buy it, like, just let me know, because at this point, yeah, at this point, unless it's like a custom made piece, if it's a Palpatine, either I've got it or it's a $500 sideshow collectible.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And there is a line, apparently, even for me.
That's fair. That's fair. So, I mean, I think we pretty much talked. I mean, a lot of these things we've already covered in previous episodes.
Yeah.
Over the last few weeks or months. What would you ultimately, if you were to give this a letter grade, what would you give A New Hope as far as its rating?
A minus.
A minus. Okay.
What
about you, Brian?
I don't know. I mean, it's not the perfect movie.
A 30
it's got
years ago.
flaws.
B today.
Okay, that's fair.
You kind of cut out there, Brian. What was that?
A 30 years ago, B today.
Okay. I think I would say it's
Sarah,
for me.
I had some collateral damage getting that thing off the shelf. I gotta find out where one of my figures went.
Oh no, there's a missing emperor.
We can't spare any. There's only 278 up there.
Spared no expense. So I would say
I get that reference.
if I was to give it a letter grade, I would probably say, if I'm being fair, B plus, A minus, borderline. And the reason being is because A minus, because it jump started my love for Star Wars, but the B plus mainly because some of the long takes are a little bit longer than they need to. But the dialogue is stilted and it comes off a little corny, but I do love the film. And while Empire is always going to be my number one out of the entire franchise, there's a very special place in my heart because this was the original.
Yeah.
This was the original. So yeah, cool. So next week, what are we going to be talking about next week?
We're talking about absolutely nothing because we are going on our holiday break for Christmas and New Year. So we will be off for the next 2 weeks. I know. What are you going to do with?
I'll be enforcing the Imperial Blockade of Kashyyyk for Life Day next week.
Yeah.
Are you guys traveling or have family coming into town?
Go ahead, John.
No, not traveling. Just going. Other than to nearby town that's only about 30 minutes away from me. So that's about it. We have our own Christmas tradition.
Yeah, we're kind of the hub for family stuff because we're in Central California. So I've got my dad's sister lives up in Woodland near Sacramento, so she'll be coming down. Her son lives about 20 minutes east of us, so he'll possibly be coming over with his wife and kids. I'll have my son with me on Christmas Day. We always do a flip-flop. So last year I had him Christmas Eve. This year I have him for Christmas Day, which is nice because Christmas Day falls on a Wednesday, and I usually have him Wednesday, Thursday. So I'll have him Christmas Day the day after. Then he goes back to his mom for the weekend. And so it's going to be really kind of a neat deal. But it's going to be just, here local, but Christmas Eve, I do get to play Santa Claus.
Oh, nice. So for us, Christmas Eve is kind of when our family does its Christmas, like our immediate family. And it started when my daughter was about a few months old. My wife was clipping her fingernails. We were supposed to be going somewhere, and she got too close and clipped the tip of her finger, and she wouldn't stop bleeding. She cried and cried and cried. So we just ordered Chinese and stayed in. And so that's now become our tradition, not to cut my daughter's tip of my daughter's finger. But my wife found a recipe for chicken fried rice. Yeah. And that if you ever go to those Japanese restaurants, they got that yum yum sauce. She found a recipe for that. So we have chicken fried rice with egg rolls, and we open presents.
That's shades of A Christmas Story. Family going out for Chinese turkey.
Sunday morning, Christmas morning, not Sunday morning. Yeah. We don't have the waitresses singing carols to us, singing Joy to the World. But and then Christmas morning we do Christmas breakfast at my sister-in-law's.
Yeah. I'm picking my son up at 8 a.m. from his mom on Christmas Day. And so we're going to go straight over to my parents' house. We're going to open presents, have breakfast. At some point we'll have lunch or dinner or whatever. I think we're having ham. I don't know. I know in the past we've done prime rib because my grandmother loved prime rib. But it's a lot of food. Like my mom got a ham for as part of her preparations for Thanksgiving, and she ended up cooking it for something else. Because
not the emergency ham.
It wasn't an emergency ham, I tell you that. But yeah, so it's gonna be fun. My son is getting a scooter. He's finally shown interest in riding a vehicle instead of just like tipping it over and trying to figure out how the wheels work. So
how old is he?
So he just turned 8 a week ago.
Okay. Yeah, we got Gwen a Razor this year with the light up wheels.
Yeah.
This one it's adjustable. So as he gets taller, we can adjust it, but it's got 2 wheels in the front, 1 wheel in the back. He got actually really good with it. And then he's got some Godzilla stuff coming in as well.
Nice.
He has, so last week I took him to Target and he was trying to direct me into the toy section. And I said, okay, here's the deal. We will go to the toys, but we will not buy anything. But you can pick something out for Christmas, and we'll talk with Santa about it. So he actually abided by it. He didn't fight me on it. He didn't pout when I said we weren't buying anything. We went in there, and he knew exactly what he was looking for. He found the Jada remote control Godzilla with it actually does the simulated heat breath.
1 second, I have to check something because I'm going to say something and I want to make sure that little ears aren't around.
Duct tape.
My little ears are asleep, but it's no surprise to her for we're getting a 3D printer for Christmas this year.
Ooh. Nice.
Okay.
Of course,
I don't think she can hear. Anyway, sorry. So my daughter has come up with a plan to prove that Santa Claus is real. Her plan is she's going to tell Santa what she wants for Christmas, but not tell anyone else.
Oh, smart.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Shoot, how are you going to defeat that?
Oh, I actually have a great way.
Okay.
Have her write the letter to Santa Claus to put in the mail and have it then intercept the
Retrieve
letter
it.
and then read it
Mhm.
and then send it back out.
Yeah. Well, what she does is she tells her elf.
Oh, even better. Put a recording device behind one of the elves.
Yes.
Done.
Surreptitious monitoring, always the solution.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, we are hosting my mom this year. We usually did Christmas Eve. My mom and her husband would come over and do Christmas Eve with us, and then we would do Christmas Day here alone, and then we'd go to my mom's house for Christmas Day. My dad always travels, and my wife's family is distant. But this is the first year my stepdad's not with us, so my mom is going to come over here Christmas Day and spend it with us.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
well, we actually have.
I'm not sure what we did a Santa brunch on Sunday. A local Irish pub of all places had a Santa there, and my daughter asked him for the power to fly, which is. I was like, I don't think the elves make superpowers, honey. We'll see.
Yeah, no, we have actually usually three families that we go to because being adopted, we have a family that we do, then we go to my wife's family and then my biological family to end.
That's nice.
And then, so.
Cool. Well, you guys have a very Merry Christmas. I'll check in with you remotely, and to our audience, have a very Merry Christmas as well. And move along, Rebel Scum.
With that being said, Brian, why don't you tell everybody out there where they can connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me on the Sith Library and Archives Facebook page on Facebook, where we present a large and lovingly curated collection of Sith culture, art, and humor.
Isn't that it?
That's it.
Okay. As for me, you guys can find me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing, where I talk about my books, The Archives of Issing Korean, and I'll have more stuff on that as we get into the new year because we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of my first book being published. I also promote my show The Right Way on YouTube, where we talk book recs, author interviews, and creative writing tips. I have a new episode coming out this Saturday featuring our social media guru for Feast of Fandoms, Kat Haller, doing a top 10 book recs list. And then I've got a great author interview with John McBride, who is he writes superhero science fiction. And then some tips for publishing by another author named Thea Landon, who I've had on the show in the past. I also co-host another show on Feast of Fandoms called Snackame, where we eat snacks and talk anime. And we have a new episode coming out this coming Friday, because we do it once a month. And we're talking about the Legend of Vox Machina while eating some mochi.
Nice. All right. As for us, of course, if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so through our email. That is warthestars1@gmail.com, or you can check us out on our Instagram page at @war_of_the_stars1. We're also on X at War of the Stars 1 and on YouTube at WOTS77. Of course, War of the Stars is a proud member of the Feast of Fandoms group. Check out all of the different shows on the Feast of Fandom YouTube channel. Just search Feast of Fandoms and you'll be able to find us there. All the great shows that are there, and we're all a part of it. We've all been a part of different ones, so check us out there. What else do we got? Oh, if you want to support the show, you can do so at kofi.com/War of the Stars, or you can check out the cool merch at spreadshirt.com/war-of-the-stars. As along with being on Feast of Fandom's YouTube page, which comes out on every Wednesday. On Thursday, you can check us out on our own Spotify page. Just search War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, wherever you find podcasts. And you can check us out there also. With that being said, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next year, may the Force be with you.